The San Jose Sharks might be trading for Carey Price's contract.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at The Reef, my personal blog about the San Jose Sharks and their prospects, and also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do, just follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today, we're going to be examining why the Sharks might be interested in the Carey Price contract. We'll dig into the contract itself, why this is happening now, why the Sharks are interested, what it might potentially cost San Jose, and if this is the holdup with the Michael Misa contract. So let's start by kind of the why of it and why the Canadiens are looking to trade Carey Price's contract. First, Carey Price, just like Logan Couture, medically retired but not retired, right? After their Stanley Cup run, was basically like, I'm not going to be able to play hockey anymore. So they've had this contract sitting on their books for the past couple of years that they've used to go dip into the LTR funds, also kind of keep them, above the cap floor. Not that the Canadiens had to really worry about it, but they've had, just like the Sharks have had with Logan Couture, where they've had this contract coming on, just kind of hanging out on the books that has allowed them to dip into the LTIR. Now, with 1 year left on his deal at $10.5 million, the Canadiens are looking to potentially trade the contract. So let's start with why the Canadiens are looking to trade it. They want some more roster flexibility. So as of right now, the Canadiens are projected to be, we'll just say $6 million over the cap. So they have a projected cap hit of 101, 400, et cetera, et cetera. So puts them right around $6 million over the cap. Carey Price's contract this year, his AAV is $10.5 million. So they could theoretically not have to do anything and just move him to LTIR, which then kind of bumps your cap ceiling up by the cost of that contract. So we see teams do this all the time. Florida, Vegas, everybody does it, right? It is part of the game, right? And especially when you're this close to the cap ceiling, having that space so that we can roster a full team, like that's what it's for. If the Canadiens are to trade him, it takes that $10.5 million off, right? And that puts them as cap compliant. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what does it matter if they're cap compliant by being below or by using the LTIR? As a reminder, when you are below the cap every day, you kind of build up this money that can be used at the trade deadline, right? And that's why you won't see it anymore. You're going to stop seeing it, but that's why you see teams send guys down to the minors for a day and bring them back up. Stuff like that, like where they try to kind of build up this bank of money that they can use at the trade deadline to acquire guys who would normally be more expensive, right, than what you would acquire. Because when you trade at the trade deadline, you take on the remainder of the contract, right? So whatever money they're left on their contract for the rest of the year, right? So if you're making $1 million this year and you get traded at the trade deadline, your cap space is like $100,000, $150,000. Like it's not that expensive, right? Because you've played through most of the season. So what happens is basically they're able to kind of build this up. when you were in the LTIR, when you're above the cap space and not kind of you're not able to kind of bank that cap money, right? So that's why the Canadiens want to do it now, because they want to provide themselves with more roster flexibility, so that way they can make a trade, right? And be able to more efficiently make trades without having to, and be able to kind of manage their roster better, right? With call-ups or send downs or whatever it is. It just gives you more flexibility to do that when you're not in the LTIR. So that's kind of one of the reasons why. So the other question is like, well, why now? Why not do this way back in, June or July or whenever? And that's kind of where it gets to the nitty gritty of the contract, right? And quick, with hockey contracts, they take whatever money you're making. So, right, if you sign a 8-year deal at $80 million, they divide that up, right? 8 by 80, that's 10. So your AAV is $10 million a year. And that's how that's how they process it. So right? Your cap hit is $10 million. It doesn't matter how it gets paid out. Like theoretically, you could pay $79 million in the first year, and then I don't know, you have to have some vet min type of thing. But like you could pay like $70 million of it in the first year, and then the next 7 years you could divide it up by by the remaining 10 million, right? So you get like a 1 point whatever million for the next couple seasons. But your AAV is $10 million. Carey Price pulling up his contract now from not the one I wanted. There we go. So pulling up Carey Price's contract from Puckpedia. So his AAV is $10.5 million cap hit, right? He gets so the way they did it was he got a base salary every year of $2 million. That's kind of like what he collects his for actually like going to work type of thing, right? He collects $2 million spread out throughout the year. What they did though is September 1st, Carey Price would get one check for a signing bonus that they split up. So like the first year he got like a 13 million. The first couple of years got like a 13 million. Then it kind of like went down to like 8.5. Then it went up to 11. And then in like the last couple of years has been like 6.7, 6.5, 5.5, and $5.5 million over the last 2 years. So it gets the base salary of $2 million. That's what the team owes throughout the season. And on September 1st, the Canadiens give him a big check. Last I checked, September 1st is Monday. So the Canadiens are giving Carey Price a $5.5 million check on Monday. The remainder of his salary for this year that the teams actually have to sign the check for is $2 million. So the Canadiens are basically, they're going to eat that, as they have been doing the past couple seasons, right? They're going to eat that. But now is for a team, this is the beneficiary of, you're paying $2 million to have a $10.5 million cap hit, right? So a lot of money, a lot of math, et cetera, et cetera. But a team like the Sharks, Mike Greer only has to sign a check for $2 million for the rest of the season, but he gets $10.5 million on his cap. Why would the Sharks do this? And what other teams are interested in doing this? We'll get to that here in just 1 second. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I really like the Joe Burrow MVP thing. So if you're into that, maybe if you just want to, have some fun every week, make more your Sundays more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy. The best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, guys, before we continue, I do have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make our favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping out. All right, so why would a team be interested in trading for Carey Price's contract? You look at teams that are close to the floor, right? So the three teams that have been kind of named, and this was, this coming from Marco Di Amico, who does work for, covers the Canadiens for the RG Media. So the three teams he named are the Sharks, who are very close to the cap floor, the Blackhawks, who are also very close to the cap floor, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are not close to the cap floor, but they do have plenty of kind of space right now. So if you're a team like the Sharks, who we can expect are not going to be in the playoffs, right, and are most likely going to be sellers at the trade deadline, if you trade your pieces, and we've talked about guys who could be, Jeff Skinner signed a 1-year deal. John Klingberg signed a 1-year deal. You have Mario Ferraro, Timothy Liljegren. You have all those guys who are in the last year of their deals and make decent money. If you trade away a couple of those guys, right? So if you just say John Klingberg makes 4, you trade away, Jeff Skinner, who makes 3, that's 7. I'm trying to do math on the fly. And then you trade either Ferraro or Liljegren, both those guys make 3.25. That's just about $10.5 million right there, which if the Sharks took $10.5 million off their cap, they're not going to be above the floor. They're going to be pretty below the floor. So if you bring in Carey Price's contract, it gives you as Sharks flexibility to make some of these trades and not have to worry about taking on a contract in return, right? Because the thought is most teams, they're not going to have contracts that big that they're probably going to try to get rid of, especially if they're trying to make a cup run. So for the Sharks, this gives you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to your trades because you can be more aggressive selling pieces off without having to worry about hitting the cap floor. And again, the Sharks have plenty of cap space, right? Right now they have the second most amount of cap. The Sharks still have $19.7 million in cap space right now. They're about $5 million over the cap floor. We'll just say $70 million is the cap floor. So they're basically $6 million over the cap floor right now. So if you trade Klingberg and you trade Jeff Skinner, for example, you're not cap compliant anymore. So that's why the Sharks would want to do this. Same thing with the Blackhawks, right? They've got $77 million in cap space so if they trade off some of their pieces, whether it's a Jason Dickinson or Nick Foligno or whomever, right, that they maybe might look to trade off at the deadline, they need to also be cap compliant. Well, here you might be saying, well, what about the Ducks? The Ducks, have $20 million in cap space. They also got to re-sign Mason McTavish or figure out what they're going to do with Mason McTavish. So I think they're kind of banking on that. Plus, they feel like a team that is probably not going to be big sellers, or at least that's the hope for them. But the Penguins are interesting because the Penguins are clearly above the cap, right? The Pittsburgh Penguins right now have $13 million in cap space with so they're clearly above the cap. Why would they do this? because they're tanking 100%. Right? They're going to probably trade. They're trying to trade Russ. They're trying to trade Raquel. They're probably going to trade Malkin at some point. They're trying to trade Erik Karlsson with his 2 years left. Like, they need this cap space because they have big time contracts that they're trying to get off of and get picks and prospects back, and also make their team worse, so that way they can be in the driver's seat for the McKenna sweepstakes. So we have 3 teams in this. So what is this going to cost the Sharks if they want to do this? And if you look at kind of the other big LTIR contract who has been traded over the past couple seasons, that would be Blackhawks legend Shea Weber, who's the same situation. His contract at $7.8 million has been passed around like a pair of jeans in between friends in a certain movie. Some of you will get that joke. Some of you won't. Didn't really land it very well. But anyway, that contract's been moved a lot, right? It's been passed, like this contract has moved a lot between teams who are in similar situations of, we want to try to make sure we get to the cap floor, or we need LTIR space. So going from the Canadiens to Vegas to the Arizona Coyotes to the Utah Blackhawks Utah Hockey Club to the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, this contract has been passed around multiple times. Of course, Shea Weber has not played a game since the 2020-21 season, same time as Carey Price, right? All those trades, though, you typically it was like a 5th round pick, right? Where a team just kind of gave up a 5th round pick Vegas traded Dadonov to get the LTIR contract, right? And then Vegas traded the Coyotes acquired a 5th round pick and Shea Weber for the rights of Dyson Mayo to get that. So the Coyotes got a pick out of it. And then last year at the trade deadline, the Blackhawks acquired Weber, Soderstrom, and and Rati from the hockey club for a 5th round pick. Utah Mammoths for a 5th round pick. So it's typically not much. And if you look at the Sharks, right, the picks don't matter, but the Sharks do have a bit of a contract issue with the amount of contracts that they have on their roster, right? We talked about this for Michael Misa last week, where the Sharks just have too many contracts, right? They have too many NHL contracts between, their full 23 that's going to be on the NHL roster. And then you look at the AHL roster where they just have too many contracts. So you could see, again, depending on what other teams are trying to do here, maybe a team gets a little bit more like, we'll give you something, I don't want to say substantial. Like, I don't think nobody's trading a massive piece or anything like that. But you could see the Sharks where they maybe will give you like a quality AHL forward. Again, none of like your young guys that you're expecting to do anything, but like, your Shane Bowers that you literally just got from the Bordelot deal, right? Or you send out some of, like a guy like that type of thing where it's like, we have too many guys. We need to kind of pare down some of our, Igor Afasaniev, Shane Bauer, like those type of players who can look, these guys can help your AHL team, the Laval Rocket right now. Like, these guys can help your Laval Rocket team right now. And it opens up some contracts for us. So maybe we package some of these guys right now. We'll take this contract off your hands. And then that frees up the Sharks to, again, going into the trade deadline, gives you some more options when it comes to taking on contracts or whatever the Sharks need to do at the trade deadline. So is this the reason why Michael Misa hasn't been signed yet, it's because we're waiting for the Carey Price trade. We'll look at it here in just 1 second. I've been meaning to tell you about my new favorite jeanswear brand, Doer. I've been living in their performance denim straight fit, and honestly, they completely changed the game for me. The best part, Doer just opened a brand new store here in Hayes Valley, and let me tell you, you're going to want to stop by. I wear my Doer jeans to work. The best thing about it is not only they look great, they feel great. They have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, so you get that perfect fit without feeling restricted. They're antibacterial, which means they stay fresh longer, so you can wear more and wash less. Because, again, you don't need to wash your jeans all the time, guys. It's not good for your jeans to wash them all the time. Doer combines classic jeanswear style with the comfort and performance of athletic wear. The best of both worlds. Once you try them, they'll be your go-to. Visit their new store that is now open at 567 Hayes Street in Hayes Valley and mention my code LOCKEDONSF for 15% off your first order. Shop online at shopdoer.com/lockedonsf. That's DUER for 15% off. All right, guys, when you're finishing listening to Locked On Sharks, go check out the Locked On NHL podcast. We're still pumping out 5 days a week over there. There's no off season, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter the most. I think I'm on the Monday episode talking about your San Jose Sharks with local coverage you love from Locked On. So find Locked On YouTube, wherever you listen to podcast. Okay, so has this been the holdup for the San Jose Sharks to not sign Michael Misa, right? And we discussed last week about Michael Misa and why it seems like college is less and less likely because, again, college teams are practicing, they're like on campus, they're going to classes, all that fun stuff. So if Michael Misa was going to be going to college, wouldn't he be enrolled in college to do all the college things? Because, again, you're still a student athlete. Even if it's minimal student athlete, you're still a student athlete. And at this point, we know Michael Misa's in the Bay because he was just hanging out with the Toffoli's at the Giants game recently. And side note, the Toffoli's adopting Michael Misa. Just perfect. We'll see where Misa lives this year, if it's with the Toffoli's or whomever with it, but would be great. Just I love how the Sharks are doing this. Just all the kids, you live with one of either the alumni, or if you live with the Toffoli's or whatever, give the Toffoli's the child they never had. It would be great to have Michael Misa there, but so back to with Misa and his contract. So again, the Sharks have too many contracts on their books right now. The Sharks currently have 49 standard contracts, but that doesn't include 2 players, Sam Dickinson and Leo Wallenius. Dickinson, we expect to make an attempt to make this team, right? Whether like he is going to be most likely, he had to have a brutal preseason, I think, to at least not get his 9-game audition. Leo Wallenius, he's going to be over in the SHL. You don't have to worry about that. That contract slides. As a reminder, contract slide, if you sign it if you sign at the ages of 18 or 19 and you don't play more than 9 NHL games, a team can slide that contract. So basically what it means is it doesn't start. So you're still signed, but doesn't start. Quentin Musty and Sam Dickinson both had their contracts slide last year, right? Both those guys signed, had already signed, right? Sam Dickinson signed last year, right after training camp or whatever, signed. That contract didn't go into hasn't gone into effect. Like his 3-year ELC still has not gone into effect until he plays more than 9 games in the NHL, or next season when he turns 20, that contract will kick into effect. So we know. And then you also have Igor Chernyshov, who same thing, he signed when he was last season, when he was 18, hasn't played 9 games. Like that contract slid last year. may or may not slide. Knowing Mike Greer and how he handles these guys, would not be surprised if Chernyshov plays 8 games, 9 games like we saw with Eklund, and then back to the AHL for you. Misa, though, is a different guy because, again, right, Michael Misa can't. It's either NHL or he has to go back to the OHL to play. And Michael Misa, I think, is too good to play in the OHL. I think I've continued to say it, I think he's a cleaner prospect now than Will Smith was this time last year, even after a year of college. I think Michael Misa is a cleaner prospect. And I expect Michael Misa to stick around all this time. So my assumption is the Sharks and Canadiens probably have a trade lined up right now that would send Carey Price, which is a +1 contract. Like, you're adding a contract with Carey Price. Even if he never plays, you still have that contract. But the Sharks send back multiple contracts back to the Canadiens. And again, maybe these guys are AHL type of guys, like, a couple guys I just named for you there. Afsiniev, Bowers, like, these are minimum type of contracts that if these guys clear waivers, they would go and play in the AHL and they would not mess with Montreal's cap. Montreal also has plenty of space. They have 43 guys signed right now. Like, they have plenty of ability to take on extra contracts. You could also look at, again, if we're just kind of picking guys who could be potential, maybe the Sharks look at maybe a guy like Carl Grundstrom, who's making like 1.8, or like a Ty Dellandrea, like one of those guys who are both in the last year of their deals, and maybe they want to add a player who can kind of help shore up their bottom 6. Could be that, but I would assume it would probably be AHL type of deals for it. So that would be my guess, is whatever, if the Sharks do take on the Carey Price contract, don't be surprised if they bring in 1 contract that they ship out 2 to clear the way for Michael Misa to sign his contract and officially be on the roster, because we kind of know it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen at some point here for Misa. And I think right now the Sharks are just trying to pave the way. And if the Carey Price trade doesn't happen, right, and he goes to Pittsburgh or he goes to wherever, they're still going to, to get Misa on the roster, there's still going to be, there's going to have to be a trade. Even if it's an AHL trade and you get like a late round pick, or it's a future considerations or whatever it is, there's still going to be a trade for there, because you do have to clear up some space for Michael Misa. So yeah, we might have a future Sharks legend, Carey Price, coming up here soon. If the Sharks do this, and Carey Price, who does have a no move clause, but has said he will waive it to help the Canadiens. And again, it's not like you're going to see Carey Price hanging around San Jose or anything like that. This is basically a paper transaction type of thing. But if it does happen and Carey Price is is a Shark or Penguin or Blackhawk or whatever, I do hope that the Canadiens sign him to the 1-day contract so he can officially retire as a Canadian. And because, right, it's weird when they don't. So anyway, so we'll see. Monday's a big day because, again, that bonus will have been paid out. So we'll see if we get some traction on Monday, kind of what happens here, and if we get Carey Price's contract. So, and then again, if that opens it up for Michael Misa to sign his ELC. So we'll be back later this week as we start to kind of continue to gear up for training camp. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok. Hansballman Cowabunga. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook at MyFryhole. Till probably tomorrow. Bye, friends.